Hello everyone, this is going to be a multi-part video and there's going to be multiple takes. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I've done, and then I'm actually going to do some stuff and then start new takes, so getting a little crazy this time. Let's see, first of all, I've done a little bit more trim here. You may notice the machine, the beast, has a lathe down. I had to put trim across here, across the front bottom. And I also put some trim along the sides here on the bottom. And again, I don't know what these are called, these things that fit over the corner. These are diesel, these are sturdy. So if it impacts anything, it won't be damaged at all. Let me step back a bit. It's kind of hard to see from here. I'll show you it tilted up in a moment, but it looks much nicer like that with the trim going across completely the front. Also, if you remember from my last video, I just came back yesterday actually from the beach, spending some time with my family, and I was going to try to get this thing in my SUV. Well, I got it out of the house on a hand truck without damaging it or killing myself, and with no assistance. I got it in the SUV and then realized, because it was turned on its side, basically, because it's 2.5 feet wide, it was too tall. Of course it was that way. It was too tall to actually fit in without slightly sticking out of the back. So to move something this large, you really need a truck or, you know, a hitch, whatever the thing's called, that you hook up to the back of a truck with wheels on it and a small platform to haul things. To put it on something like that, it's not going to fit in a typical family, you know, faux truck SUV type car. So, you know, I had to take it back out. Fortunately, it did not get damaged. Just an occasional small impact, as you can see from a dent right here, a minor one. But anyway, got it back into the garage, got it back into the house, so I could continue working on it. I was talking earlier also about putting caster wheels on it so you can move it around more easily, which is pretty smart. At least for the period of time in which you're working on it. When you're done, of course, you could take them off if it's going to have a permanent location inside your house. But these caster wheels, as I also mentioned, are about 1.25 inch, the smallest ones I could find at Home Depot. And you can actually see, good lord, it busted 2 of them. Well, this is a good opportunity, actually. I thought it just busted 1. When I was moving it and it was in the garage, it came down a little hard on one of the wheels, and the ball bearings actually flew out of the caster wheel, which of course are what allow it to rotate smoothly. I replaced the one that was damaged, but I can see now there's a second one damaged. You can actually see the bearings. There's one of them. Are loose, so I have to replace this one as well. But just be really careful. You don't want to put too much weight on any of these caster wheels, or it'll deform it such that the bearings can escape, which will significantly impact its functionality. So you might want to actually think about getting larger caster wheels if they're going to be a permanent part of the unit. Otherwise, don't worry about it. Let me pause this real quick. I want to show you something in the back that I did. So BRB. Okay, just real quick, this is the wheel that was destroyed. I just replaced it. You can see right above my thumbnail there, this round bit, that's the end of a rivet. A rivet's basically, think of like a cylinder of metal that's sort of flattened out on both sides that holds 2 pieces of metal together. The rivet, in fact, got stretched out and opened this round part here, and that round part is what contains the ball bearings. So if you put too much pressure on one of these, it actually stretches the rivet out, or more than likely it doesn't actually stretch the rivet, it stretches the metal that the rivet is trying to hold together, which opens up a bit of space around this ring and allows the bearings to escape. So it actually messed up almost all of them. Like, you can see how tight this is here that contains the ball bearings, that part. If you look here, with my dog hairs there, if you look there, you can see it's much looser. See that? So the bearings can't escape this one, but they're right at the point where they could almost get out. And this one's also loose too. So bottom line is, get better caster wheels. These apparently are complete crap. Anyway, I'll flip this thing in a second. Alright, one of the things I've done is I actually put caulk around the edges of the bezel here. This of course being the bezel, it's the frame around the monitor like a picture frame. So I put caulk all the way around here, sealing up these edges. The reason being, other than the fact there was a small gap in there, which I don't want to affect the acoustics when I put the subwoofer or optionally secondary speakers inside the unit, is because once the lighting is mounted here, of course you don't want light spilling out around the edges of the bezel or any other places where there might be a small seam. That would of course look strange, particularly in a dark room. So that's another thing that I've done so far on this unit. Swing around here. Okay, where the marquee of course is going to go, I actually got a piece of plexiglass, which is relatively inexpensive. Swing around here, see my lovely home from the hardware store. Bring it over. That's it. It's flexible. It still has the protective film on it to prevent it from being scratched, which I'll peel off later. So flip this around. Looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. It's pretty flexible. And this of course is wide enough to actually cover the appropriate area. Again, approximately 2.5 feet. Actually slightly larger than that. As you can see, it fits. Hold it up. Fits neatly inside the unit there. What I'm actually going to do with this thing here is go online and find some nice artwork for various various arcade machines, Street Fighter 2 of course, any of the other iconic games, and use the GIMP, which is like the open source equivalent of Photoshop, to sort of composite or stitch these various pieces of artwork together to fit the dimensions here, which is approximately 6 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, 6 inches tall, 2.5 feet wide, of the marquee. And then I'm going to print that out to scale using multiple sheets of paper, put those pieces of paper together so they're contiguous, and then I'm actually going to put that underneath this. So if you think about paint by numbers or tracing, I'll basically have the artwork looking really nice, printed out, black and white, going behind this thing. Obviously this will be cut out to the correct size. And then I'm actually going to paint with acrylic paint, more than likely, the artwork itself, fill in the color and all of that so it looks super nice. Then cut out yet another segment of this and put that behind it for strength. Drill screw holes in here and mount that across here. More than likely, because this is pretty much transparent, it's not frosted or anything like that, I'll have to take sandpaper and actually scuff the back of the plexiglass of the rear sheet so it will be more opaque and better diffuse the light coming from the light source mounted inside the unit. Okay, this is interesting. You can see here two pieces that I just cut out, for lack of a better description, from the piece of plexiglass. Of course, they're 6 inches tall and 2.5 feet wide. Hold it up here. This is interesting. I marked it and then I tried to cut it with a jigsaw, and what happened is apparently fiberglass is very brittle. The jigsaw, even trying different bits, different blades, actually cracked the fiberglass. As careful as I could possibly be, it still cracked it. So I just came up with the crazy idea, because this is covered with a thin plastic film on the outside to protect it from being scratched, that perhaps I should treat this like drywall. Drywall basically has a cardboard or paper film on the outside of it, and if you need to cut drywall, you don't actually cut straight through it or use a jigsaw. You take a box cutter like this, and you mark your lines on the drywall, and then of course you cut right along the line. Now it only cuts through the outer sheathing or the outer paper, and once you have that line in there, you just put the drywall so that on the edge of a table, basically. So the part that you cut's right there, and then pop, you just push it straight down, and it actually breaks right along the line, right along the weak point that you created by making a cut into it. So I pretty much did the same thing with this. I actually cut as hard down as I could, as accurately as I could along the line that I drew in pen, and clamped the sheet between two pieces of OSB such that the overhang was right where the line was at the top there, and then basically used a large level to push down evenly, and it popped very loudly and broke it reasonably close to the seam that I marked here. So that was pretty crazy. I'm sure there's a much better way to cut plexiglass, but it's definitely not with a jigsaw. So if anybody knows how to cut plexiglass without some sort of advanced equipment, please let me know. But in any case, if you do not have that equipment, or if there's not a better way, just score it as deeply as you can with a box cutter or an X-Acto knife or whatever you have. Clamp it between two things, and then with as even pressure as you can across the overhanging edge, push it down, and it will snap somewhat violently and pop pretty closely along the line that you cut. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bore out the screw holes for this and show you basically how it will attach to the unit to form the marquee. Alrighty, I've drilled holes in the plexiglass. There's actually 2 sheets up here. I drilled 3 holes, only in the top, so it's basically hanging. I don't want to screw with the plexiglass too much since it's pretty much demonstrated that it can shatter or crack very easily. So you want to make sure when you drill the holes that they're big enough, slightly larger than the diameter of the screw shaft, so the screw itself going through it doesn't cause it to shatter, of course. Both layers are here. See here in the corner, there's 2 layers of plexiglass in there. I've taken off the plastic film. I have not yet sanded the back layer, of course, so it better diffuses the light and is more opaque, less transparent. And there's just the 3 screws right there, left, right, and center. Also, I just put a piece of paper in between them to show essentially how the marquee artwork is going to be held by both of these. Let's see here. This again the protective guard for stairs that I've used to trim the entire unit with. This is just a scrap piece that's left over. I thought I'd only need 2 of these that I bought initially. I bought a 3rd one today, thinking that was going to be enough, and I'll be damned if it's not. So it looks like to properly protect the edges of your machine, if you do want to use something like this, you need to get at least 4 8-foot pieces of this type of material. I'd have enough. But once the artwork's on there, the back one's been sanded so it's more opaque. I'm actually going to trim this with this here, which will take a little bit off the top. See how it reduces the overall size. So instead of being 6 inches, you're basically going to have about probably 4.5 inches vertically in which to have your artwork. But once that is done, of course trimmed around here, around the bottom, around the right side, that should look just freaking amazing, really. So we're gonna see that. Hopefully I'll have that done for my next update, because I'm really excited about that. One other thing that I plan on doing on my Lowe's hardware run today, got a bunch more corner braces. You never have too many corner braces, and this is a rip-off. There's like 4 in this bag, forget that. They didn't have anything better, but if you can find a place, or probably eBay or any place online, if you can actually just get a box, of like 50 count, plus of corner braces like this, you're gonna get more bang for your buck. These little crappy 4-packs here are just a waste of money. I think these are about $2.50 each, just for 4 braces. These guys here are switches. Let me take one out, but anyway, very simple switch, on and off, binary switches. They either open or close the circuit. You attach the wires here. There's a little mounting apparatus. You have to see here that you can screw off this shaft. So these look like they're about half an inch thick, which means they won't perfectly fit as far as the width of a piece of OSB here at 7/16 of an inch OSB plus about a 1/16 of an inch for the vinyl on the outside. So I may actually have to recess the interior of the OSB to get this thing to mount properly. But in any case, I'm going to put probably in the top portion here both of these switches in there, and the reason I'm having two is one is actually going to be for the marquee light, and the other is going to be for the surge suppressor, that of course being a power strip, but it'll be replaced with a surge suppressor. So you can actually turn the unit on and off without getting inside it, without screwing with anything, and the marquee light independently with these switches. So to do that kind of work, you basically have to partially strip the wire on the surge suppressor or power strip. Again, I'm not an electrician, but I'm pretty sure that the one that you want to connect here is going to be the hot wire and the neutral wire, and you just leave the ground wire alone. But don't take my word for that. I don't want you to die because you listen to some idiot on YouTube going on and on about things that he knows nothing about. So most definitely do your own research and consult a proper manual, a proper guide about how to how to connect switches to wiring. It's basically three wires as far as I know. There's the hot, which is the one that kills you. There's the neutral, and then there's the ground, which isn't always there. So anyway, do your own research there. Don't listen to me. Don't die. But it's going to be awesome once I have that working. Nice an on switch to turn the whole unit on, and another switch for the marquee lighting. Okay, before I tap out for the evening, I'd like to comment on some things I've recently learned regarding MAME, the emulator that, as far as I know, is like the de facto standard for running arcade ROMs, and is used in pretty much all arcade cabinets outside of the originals. You would think MAME, being open source, would actually, have like a GPL v2 or GPL v3, some sort of BSD license, some sort of, common open source license. But apparently, whoever created MAME back in the day, I think it was the mid-90s actually, when they started working on it, decided to, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not fully informed on this, but apparently they just pulled a license out of their ass and just made up a license. Credit where credit's due. According, if you go to the MAME website right now, it looks like they're attempting to change the license to a GPL license, or a general public license, which is much less restrictive than the current one. But the license as it stands disallows commercial use. Not only does it disallow commercial use, it actually does not allow MAME to be run in public. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means. If I invite 50 people to my house, does that constitute public use of MAME? Do I actually need to, run a business? Do I actually have to have like a commercial property? Does it need to be zoned commercial and then it's considered public? I have no idea. So apparently MAME is governed by a pretty sketchy out there license where no one quite knows what it means. What that does mean is that if I build an arcade machine and, for example, try to put it in any public place where people can just come up and play it, I'm actually in violation of MAME's license agreement, and could actually be sued by whoever owns the IP for MAME, the creator of MAME. Perhaps I could be individually sued by each contributor of MAME under that license. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of contributors to MAME, that have committed code to the version control software. They may have written one line, contributed one line of code to MAME, or they could have written thousands of lines. Who knows? But in any case, that's utterly bizarre. It sort of defeats the purpose of an open source license. So hopefully, what they said in the MAME website is that they're actually attempting to contact every contributor of code to MAME ever. They're trying to actually find them, contact them and ask them if it's cool if they can switch over their contribution from, their Franken license over to a much friendlier, sane GPL license. So for the time being, pretty much you can use MAME in your home, otherwise you're breaking the law and can be sued. And the ironic thing is, you'd think the problem wouldn't be with MAME itself, the problem would actually be with the IP holders of the ROMs. For example, Super Puzzle Fighter here by Capcom, you would think you'd have to contact Capcom, buy the game, or somehow buy a license from them so you could actually run the ROM on MAME in order to be legit. So for example, let's say I wanted to build arcade machines, go figure, and actually put them in pizza joints, movie theaters, all over God's green earth, and holy shit, put coin boxes in them, right? So I could make some money. Go there once a month, pick up the coins, everybody has a good time. I would contact Capcom, Konami, Namco, anybody who owned the IP currently for the games featured on the system, and say, hey, let me buy a license, let's work out a deal, give you, cut of the profit, I'll give you reports on how many quarters went in for each game, each month, etc., however you wanted to work things out. Okay, apparently that will be the least of your problems, because there is no way to run the games in that environment because of MAME's craptastic ass backward fucked up license. So again, credit where credit's due, the MAME team is apparently trying to correct that issue and trying to GPL this thing. So I would love to hear anyone's comments on, the current situation with the license agreement, the actual license or copyright for MAME, the software, and what really needs to be done to get it in a state where people can use it for anything they want. Commercial, non-commercial, educational, what have you. Which is how almost all open source software works. It's extremely permissive, that's kind of the whole point. So we don't have to deal with this level of bullshit. So please let me know in the comments. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And what I think needs to be done, first of all, they need to, if they find the people that contributed code and they don't get a response from them, they send the email, it bounces back, they can't find them, whatever. If they don't get a response saying, hey, yes, GPL it, whatever version you want, BSD, GPL, V2, V3, what have you, if they cannot get that from people, they either need to strip that code from MAME, and try to patch it up to where it still works, or they need to recreate the functionality of that code, strip the code out and replace it with a new code with similar functionality. Because you just can't have a software of this caliber. I mean, MAME, as far as I know, is solely responsible for preserving our history of, not just one console, but, a huge part of our history as a people. Because this isn't like a console in some dude's basement. These were out in public. People play these competitively with audiences. Arcade machines are a big deal. So they really need to get MAME in a state where people can freely exchange it without worrying about being sued by anybody. According to the terms of a very friendly license like GPL V2, V3, or BSD license. So let me know in the comments section what you think about the current state of MAME with respect to its license agreement, and how you think they should proceed to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. Because frankly, it's ridiculous that an open source program is more of a problem than actually contacting the IP holders to legitimately license the software you want to run. That just blew my mind when I figured that out. So let me know what you think, and I'll keep you updated on the next iteration of the cabinet.